The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
I want to clarify something from the get. I'm not upset nor mad nor even miffed about Tennessee's selection of representatives for the SEC Media Days. As a matter of fact, I love Cooper Mays going. I just think they could have done something a little bit different. And I had a discussion with somebody about Bru McCoy and why he's not going to SEC Media Day. So we're going to dive into that. Also, James Pearce, his EA Sports rating, maybe EA Sports, it's in the game, said that, man, we have really dumped all over the Vols. So we're going to give him a big rating. But Caleb doesn't think it's high enough. The Vols lose a highly touted defensive end. While we talk about James Pearce, one out the door, we'll discuss a transfer to a junior college and probably not the best move for the young man. I hope everything works out. Florida State and Clemson supposedly will never be targeted by the SEC. It's according to some news reports. We'll dive into that. And who has to be the breakout ball on offense for Tennessee this season as we get to talk some football. And I'm taking two very important players out of the equation. So we'll ask that as part of our poll question a little bit later in the program. Caleb Calhoun, how are you, sir?
Pretty good. How are you doing, Dave?
I'm doing well. Are you ready to get to today's tough question? Because you came up with this one, and I can't think of a better way to begin the program. Here we go.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Is Tennessee's offense no longer in vogue? We have heard from several different recruiting, or not recruiting rankings, but several different rankings of teams. And Tennessee's typically lower on the list than you would think. You also have Tennessee's defense getting some respect with the James Pearce and the EA Sports thing, and that's great. But is Tennessee's offense still in vogue? Caleb, I usually ask you first, but I'm going to go first on this. And I'm going to say, yes, it absolutely is. And it's still in vogue because I believe that coaches and people that know football realize how dangerous it is to play as long as the rules, which we discussed yesterday, of releasing offensive linemen downfield are still in order. That changes, everything else changes. But for now, I think opposing coaches realize how dangerous it is. The media, though, Caleb, may be a way different story.
Yes. So for those who don't know, I brought up this question because there's been a lot of, from local and national media, a lot of people much more down on the Vols than Dave and I are this year. And we were kind of wondering what's going on. Why is this? And a big thing that happened was the drop-off offensively for Tennessee last year from the year before. And there came a belief that Tennessee's offense is just not the flashy offense it was with Hendon Hooker. Now, elephant in the room, there was a change in quarterback to a quarterback not fit for Tennessee's system. But here's what I think threw people off, Dave. The Orange Bowl at the end of the 2022 season that Joe Milton won Orange Bowl MVP. That game led everybody to believe that there would be no drop-off in the offense whatsoever. It's good no matter what. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. And probably hurt Hendon Hooker's draft stock because people like Mel Kiper don't do their research. And then Joe Milton, the offense reverted to what we were all concerned it would be under him as the season progressed in 2023. So then came the idea people in their mind are thinking, well, we had these high expectations after the Orange Bowl, but then the offense got figured out the next season, or there was a drop-off. So obviously what must have happened is coaches figured out the Tennessee offense, and it's just not going to be flashy anymore. I don't think anybody's figured out this offense.
I don't think anybody's figured it out. I think there's another bowl game I want to cite in that year before that I think is significant in the reason that Tennessee is viewed as, by some people I've talked to in the media, a flash in the pan, that Hooker was a flash in the pan. You're not just going to get Hooker all the time. So you get this Hooker weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern time. But when with Tennessee's offense, I think that the biggest factor is the reason they're still going to be in vogue and in vogue for the remainder of Josh Heupel's days is that they run the football. That is important to them. They run the football, and I believe that Tennessee will continue to rely on that. Who the superstars will be on the outside, we're not real sure. But I think Tennessee has a special quarterback too. But the bowl game that I want to cite specifically is going back to the 2022 season. It's Georgia.
Well, that's the one I did. Oh, sorry.
No,
sorry.
It's Georgia. It's Georgia thumping TCU 65-7. Now, you and I know that Tennessee's offense and TCU's offense is not the same, right?
Right.
Do you want to explain real quick? Give me a quick thumbnail of how they're different for those that don't know.
So for those who don't know, Sonny Dykes, they both actually have Mike Leach influences, but Sonny Dykes runs the air raid.
Right.
The air raid is almost exclusively a horizontal passing attack. There are no vertical attacks from the air raid. And they don't spread the field horizontally as much, and there's far fewer reads, which makes it a little bit more simple and a little bit easier to figure out. We know it's not the same, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you that average Joe media guy that I bump into at SEC Media Days in Dallas next week doesn't know that. Okay. I mean, you know more football than 90% of the people I've worked with. I'll go ahead and tell you that. So my thinking is they're seeing that and they're saying Tennessee's a flash in the pan, just like TCU was. I don't agree with that, but I do think that contention is out there. That they would face Georgia and get thumped the same way because they run the exact same offense, which isn't true. And anybody who did their research, you're right, would know that's not true because Sonny Dykes, that Georgia TCU game, you know what that was very reminiscent of, Dave? Do you remember those 90s games between Tennessee and Kentucky and Hal Mummy's Kentucky teams where Tennessee would regularly drop 50 and 60 points on Kentucky? Like they would, I think, didn't they have a period where they went over 50 on Kentucky 5 straight years or something like that? And just blew them out because the air raid, as we've always said, and I've always told you guys this, the air raid overcomes lack of talent, but the air raid also has a ceiling. The air raid has a ceiling no matter how good you are. That's not Josh Heupel's offense. It overcomes lack of talent, but it also doesn't have a ceiling. It also can be really, 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 really explosive depending on the right weapons. And I think part of what happened was so you are right. That Georgia TCU game really kind of made people think, because 2022 offenses were in vogue. You had obviously Hendon Hooker. You had Caleb Williams with the Heisman.
Even Stetson Bennett was playing really, really well, if you remember.
Yes, that's very true. So I think with Georgia winning it and then Michigan winning it this past year, there's this idea that offenses are not in vogue. And then with Josh Heupel in Tennessee specifically, there's the idea that the offense got figured out. The Orange Bowl, people did not do their research on that game. Dave, you and I covered that game. Yes, Joe Milton looked good. Clemson played a bear coverage over the middle, did they not? They were basically leaving the middle of the field so open that you and I could have completed throws over the middle in that game.
And there's also an advantage, I think, playing a quarterback with little film on him too. We realized that he was a little bit better throwing the underneath stuff, even though that didn't translate to the next year. There's always a surprise with a first time quarterback, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's actually it reminded me of, remember the Broncos Steelers playoff game where Tim Tebow went off?
Yes.
The Steelers, they dared him to beat single coverage on the outside. And Tim Tebow did beat single coverage to his credit. Barely. But that doesn't mean that Tim Tebow was going to be a long-term NFL quarterback. That was just a test run on him. And it's can you do this basic thing? So with Joe Milton, they were like, can you do this basic thing of completing passes over the middle if we play bear coverage? Not to mention the fact that Clemson didn't get off the bus for that Orange Bowl. Okay, I'm sorry. They didn't care to be there. They cared as much to be there as, here's a history one for you, Dave, as much as Tennessee cared to be in the Peach Bowl when they played Clemson 20 years ago, which I'm sure you covered that game.
Yeah, I agree with Fallout Zone that said Clemson was so vanilla, but I do think some of this, though, guys on the message board tell me if I don't have the battered ball syndrome. I don't take it to heart maybe as hard as some of you guys, and I try to let my emotions affect my reporting. I don't have that, but I do feel like some of this is from a national media perspective that doesn't really care for the Vols all that much. And I hate it when people say that, because every team likes to say, oh, the national media doesn't like us. The officiating was against us. No, that's not always the case. But I think Ball Twitter is pretty strong. You pointed this out to me, and I think they push people back, and I don't think these people like to be pushed. I'm at 40. So I think there's some of that. And let's face it, a lot of these media members are what, in their 30s? Early 40s, they've seen Tennessee be dog stuff for a long time. So I think it's natural for a media member to either say, these guys pushed back on me really hard, I got ripped in the wind, or they've been horrible, so they'll be horrible again because history repeats itself. Yes, I think Tennessee's offense is no longer in vogue with the national media, but I think the national media is out of touch.
Yes, it's very similar to, it's funny you bring that up, Dave, back in 2015, I guess would be the year, like Dabo Swinney was stacking up recruiting classes. Nobody was paying attention, but people still weren't having Clemson as in their top 10. No one really thought, oh, this is a national title caliber program. You in your mind were like, that's just not what Clemson does. And so even though they had stacked up on recruiting classes, they had stacked up on generational quarterbacks, some who were of very questionable character. You couldn't bring yourself to admit that they had title caliber teams, could you?
No.
During that time.
No, you couldn't. You couldn't. You definitely couldn't. Does Tennessee have a title caliber team now? That's debatable. You think they do. I think they're right there. The other thing that I think the national media needs to remember, this Tennessee offense has not had a full complement of 11 talented players by SEC standards, have they? I mean, let's not forget that Cedric Tillman was their number one receiver, and he got hurt in 2022. So, I mean, across the board, they haven't been as talented as they will be in the future or are this year, correct? I mean, the talent level has improved under Heupel. Or
I'm only saying that because of the quarterback this year. I think the talent in 2022 on 11 guys may have been better. Look, I bid on this. I'm sorry, and people may not want to be honest with themselves about this, but Jeremy Pruitt left Josh Heupel more talent than Josh Heupel is giving himself. Even though for offense, he evaluated the talent well. He's the one who got Darnell right. That whole offensive line was Jeremy Pruitt's offensive line. Jalen Hyatt was Jeremy Pruitt's receiver.
I would state it like this. I do have concerns about the offensive line. I think that Jeremy Pruitt left Josh Heupel more talent than we thought at the time. I think it'll prove out, I may be wrong, but I think it'll prove out that they will recruit at about the same level. But I got concerns about the offensive line. Bru to SEC Media Days. We discussed the show represented by Banks and Jones. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
SEC Media Days, Dallas, live from the Lone Star State, brought to you by our good friends at Work Trucks. We look forward to bringing you coverage of all that's going on in beautiful Dallas, Texas. Work Trucks there on Clinton Highway. You need to get in touch with them because they can outfit any truck to any contractor specifications. That's Work Trucks. I'll tell you more about them as we move along. Also brought to you in part by our friends at Vols Automotive Group. We love those guys, Vols Automotive Group. They were nice enough to have us at the Bru McCoy inaugural golf tournament, and that was pretty cool hearing from Bru, which leads us to, why is Bru McCoy not going to SEC Media Days? Now, here is what I was told in a conversation with some people, and it was this. It was that he would be asked about his injury repeatedly over and over and over. And so for those that don't know, the way SEC Media Days works, and I imagine the other ones do as well, is you go into one room. Now you went with me, Caleb, you go into one room, and that's kind of the print room. That's where the majority of the stuff you're going to see goes to. And then you've got to go to the ESPN room, and then you've got to go to it used to be the SEC Network room, but I guess they won't have that anymore. And then the CBS. But anyway, point is, you go to about 5 different rooms and answer about the same question about 18 different times. So the thinking was they didn't want Bru to have to go answer questions about the gruesome injury that he underwent in the opener last year. What's your take on that?
I don't believe it. I don't believe them for 1 second. Why is Keenan Pili going? I mean, if it's about injuries and not wanting to be asked about it, why is Keenan Pili going to SEC Media Days and not Bru McCoy? That makes absolutely no sense.
I can make 0 sense of McCoy. I can at least argue that Nico shouldn't go because he's a redshirt freshman, that Keenan Pili shouldn't go because he's barely played and he was hurt. I'm with you. I can't come up, and I mean this with all respect, if they're trying to protect Bru and they don't want him to get asked those questions, and he's already been asked those questions a million times. But let's remember, he's been asked those questions at times in which he's gotten paid to be there. Okay? Because these are NIL opportunities. And if that's part of the deal, that's part of the deal. Now, that wasn't the case at he didn't make any money off the golf tournament, but still he was asked that. So that's been a concern. But Caleb, it's pretty simple to me. You just say this. You say, Bru, every time you're asked about the injury, you say, everything good already. And then as they say, do you notice any pain from it? Everything good already. You can just repeat yourself. I mean, just watch a debate with Donald Trump on it. Like him or love him, he knows how to drive home a message. That's eventually reporters would stop asking questions if you just short answered it.
There is a...
Wouldn't you, if you kept asking, if you asked 3 straight questions about the injury and he said, all good, I'll be fine. Wouldn't you stop?
Yes, I'd stop. This is the problem. They're not sending Bru not for this reason. There's another uncomfortable reason they're not sending Bru. And it's not the charges were dropped. We don't know what happened. We should never hold this against somebody when charges have been dropped. However, the Title IX investigation that got him banned from campus at USC would be asked if he went to SEC Media Days, particularly in light of members of Josh Heupel's coaching tree at Utah State recently getting in trouble for Title IX firings. Josh Heupel was the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma when the Joe Mixon scandal broke, for those who don't know. Yeah, it's about that. That's why they didn't bring James Pearce either. They don't want people asked about their legal past. I
disagree. I think both the reasons are weak. If that's the reason, that's weak. If it's the reason I've been led to believe, that's weak too. So I'm not saying that your reason is any better or worse than mine and has more validity or less. I just think I don't think that's it. I do think it's the injury, but let's be really pragmatic here too. Now, I was told nobody asked Bru if he wanted to go. Okay. I've also talked to people over there about doing exclusive takeout pieces on players. And you know what the response is, Caleb? They're going to want to get paid. This is going from NIL to TMZ, and you better be real careful here because TMZ pays for interviews. And when you pay somebody for an interview, they're more likely to say something outlandish and untrue to get that next check for that next interview. Be real careful here where you are, SEC and NCAA, because I will tell you that I may be the exception to the rule. I think Cooper Mays is 100% genuine on the program. Incredible when we have him on. But can I tell you that all 85 guys on scholarship would be that? No. So you better be real careful if your media opportunities are tied to paid opportunities. That is a slippery slope, Caleb.
Okay. So that is a very slippery slope. It still doesn't explain it. The injury doesn't make sense. Dave, I'm trying to hammer this out. You think it's by the injury. You think it's because of the injury. If it's because of the injury, why would they let Keenan Peely go?
Okay, but let's all be honest with ourselves. We don't 100% know. I'm telling you what I've heard. You're telling me what you think. One of the possibilities, too, is neither of the above, that they just thought, goodness gracious, the guy makes $10,000 to go to a car dealership for an afternoon. Do you think he really wants to get in a plane and go to Dallas for free? I mean, that's what
want to get in a plane to go to Dallas for free. It's a trip to Dallas.
Okay, Caleb. So where's your favorite place to go?
Oh, I'm a Vegas guy. I like to go to Vegas.
You can go to Vegas. You fly out there. It's a 2-hour flight. You spend 4 hours in Vegas, then you're out too. Or you can go down to a car dealership and they're going to hand you $10,000 because Caleb Calhoun's there. What are you doing?
Okay, then the car dealership. However, wait, I'll go further. Are you telling me there's not NIL sponsorship opportunities in Dallas during SEC Media Days?
Well, now I would argue that you make your whole brand bigger and that the national opportunities come in and that if I'm Bru, I want to go. Does it surprise you? Let's focus on this. Does it surprise you for a moment that Bru is not asked? Brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals, a Tennessee tradition? RickTerryJewelry.com. RickTerryJewelry.com. Surprise you he wasn't asked?
Yes, I actually predicted that it would be Bru McCoy, Cooper Mays, and Keenan Peely going. I didn't think Amari Thomas would go a second year in a row.
Okay, I thought you thought Nico would go.
No, I didn't think Nico or Pearce would go. I thought they would. They have a history of choosing leaders over the best players, and so I think that I think they were going to send Bru McCoy, Cooper Mays, and Keenan Peely. And I thought that was just a spread the wealth moment since Amari Thomas went last year, and so he wouldn't have to go this year. That's what I thought was going to happen, but they sent Amari Thomas and not Bru McCoy, which is kind of interesting.
I was surprised by the grouping. I do think though that Tennessee has 3 really good representatives. Now, there's some people that they don't have 3 guys that can stand in front of a microphone. Tennessee has 3 really good representatives, so count that as a plus. Tennessee's going to come off looking really good in Big D. I can promise you that. You'll look really good with one of our Off the Hook Sports t-shirts, which we will give you free just for joining our Hooker's Corner Patreon crew. And you also get more interaction, with me and the one, the only Caleb Calhoun, just by joining right there. And you get to choose between a Hooker t-shirt or a Celebrate 98 book just for becoming a member. Also, more recruiting info as Tennessee loses Chandavian Bradley, which we'll get to, but they are very close, I believe, to picking up another defensive end prospect to fill that spot. So you'll want to join Hooker's Corner to get that latest information. That was up there early this morning. It's very easy to find, and Caleb can put it in the message board if you don't mind, Caleb, because I'm going to change gears just slightly and go to EA Sports. It's in the game. Well, it's been in Tennessee's crawl for the better part of 2 weeks as they have released power ratings based off offense, defense, overall stadium, and it seems like Tennessee got the short end of the stick every time they put something out. Now, they say James Pearce is what, Caleb Calhoun?
They ranked James Pearce one of the top 5 impact players in college football. This is...
Top 5. Can I get the 5 real quick before you
Yeah,
go where
sure.
you want?
The top 5 players are Will Johnson, Michigan cornerback, Will Campbell, LSU left tackle, Ollie Gordon II, Oklahoma State running back, James Pearce, Tennessee defensive end, and Caleb Downs, Ohio State free safety. Just behind them is
Gordon really driving his way to the top.
Good one. This is the biggest.
You got to give Mike Gundy credit. He's the only guy who could bring back DUI jokes. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I mean, let's be honest. When he said I've probably done it 1,000 times, well, you wear a mullet, so you look like you've done it 1,000 times. So like, so this is a smokescreen. This is the biggest smokescreen in the history of smokescreens that I've ever seen. This is EA Sports trying to pretend, see, we're not biased against Tennessee. We have one of their players in our top 5 impact players in the video game. Uh-huh. What do you say to that, Vol fans?
Okay. Okay. I love the voice. And you can continue to do the voice if you want. But did they do this? Did they release some stuff? And in particular, the offense wasn't the top 25 offenses in the nation. And that was just an egregious mistake. Did they do that and then try to make up for it? Is that what you're suggesting? That this was in response to those things?
It was in response, but they weren't trying to make up for it because what they did was even more disrespectful. Okay? So let me just put this out here.
Wait, how can you disrespect James Pearce by making him one of the top 5 breakout players?
And for the record, because they have him number 4, and let me break that down. If you did a genuine top 100 and had him number 4, I wouldn't be that upset about it. If your 3 other guys were like quarterbacks and running backs and like, those type of superstar weapons. So Ollie Gordon, fine.
Well, I would take Pearce over Gordon in a heartbeat. By the way, Gordon is the running back from Oklahoma State. It was fantastic last year.
I would too, but traditionally in college football, all the Heisman winners are quarterbacks and running backs,
sure,
with like 2 exceptions. So I get it. You want to do that, fine. If you're going to tell me that a cornerback and a left tackle are above him, I'm not believing it because none of the quarterbacks were in the top 5. Here's my issue. Guys, the NFL mock drafts, every single one right now is debating whether or not James Pearce should go number 1 overall, period. Beyond quarterbacks, just period. It's universally accepted. There's a consensus that he's the best non-quarterback in college football this year. And nobody's really debating that. So how could James Pearce be the best non-quarterback in college football? Yet you do a list of the top 100 players and you have him at number 4 and the 3 guys ahead of him are not quarterbacks. That doesn't make sense. It's still disrespectful.
Can I ask a stupid question maybe?
Sure.
Would they factor the arrest in at all, off the field stuff? And it's not a serious arrest, and I don't want to sound like I'm besmirching his character, but let's just say Joe Mixon, for instance, or something, or, a guy. I mean, do they factor the off-field stuff in? Could that perhaps hurt him a little bit? I'm grasping at straws.
I couldn't for dropped charges. If that was a factor,
if you're a developer of a game, do you even want to get into that mess? Do you even want to open that Pandora's box? I just would be like, give me the 40 time and I'm good.
Yeah,
I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, I agree. And again, if that was the case, wouldn't they drop him further? Wouldn't they have like a Travis Hunter ahead of him at that point?
Yeah, okay, so we don't think it can be that. So let's go through the 4 ahead of him, the 3 ahead of him again.
Well, one is Ollie Gordon, and he has a DUI. Now, these ratings probably came out before he got arrested. So
okay, Ollie Gordon's a running back. I'm sorry, that's where we are. That's not the same thing. I mean, it's just
I can't.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I said, quarterbacks and running backs, I was willing to get on board with because those are the guys who win Heisman trophies in college football.
Mike Gundy would club Gordon with a foot to get James Pearce, or club Gordon's foot to get James Pearce this upcoming season. He would love that.
God,
Yeah. Who else is ahead of James Pearce?
LSU left tackle Will Campbell, because left tackles really are impact players that change games in college.
Well,
football.
they are. I mean, they protect your blind side, and he is the guy that opened the door for Lance Hurd to come to Tennessee, because I think Lance is very good, but he wasn't going to play above him. So one of the best offensive tackles in the league.
Who's the LSU homer on this show?
Yeah, I would still take Pearce. All right, so who's number one?
I would take Pearce. And number one is Michigan cornerback Will Johnson.
I saw a lot of Michigan last year for some reason, but he didn't really stand out as much to me just in the games I saw. So I'm going to say I would still take the elite edge rusher.
I would too. And this is what's driving me crazy. So the highest ranked quarterback is at number 17, and it's Shedeur Sanders. Now, we have a lot of criticisms of Deion Sanders in Colorado. I will say I'm going to give the game credit. Dave, I think you and I both agree. In terms of NFL prospects, Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in college football this year.
Yes, I like Shedeur Sanders a lot. I know that we're unpopular for saying that, but it's a factor.
Yes, anybody who watches him play, guys, he's the best quarterback in college football this year. That's as an NFL prospect. But he's down at number 17. So they're going for impact players, non-quarterback impact players. And if you're going to do that, James Pearce should be number one. And also, I would like to point out that no other Tennessee players in the top 100. So this is still disrespect by every way possible.
Is there beyond the top 100? What is the highest rated Tennessee player?
No. They just did a top 100. James Pearce is the highest rated Tennessee player. His overall rating's at 95.
Who would you have as the second highest rated Tennessee impact player?
I mean, Cooper Mays. I don't know of three centers in college football better than Cooper Mays.
Wait. You just said left tackle's not an impact position. Center's kind of not an impact position.
They branded it as impact position, not just ratings.
I think of impact as being skill position, guys. Coop's going to kill me for that.
Okay, either way, but you're right. They're not doing that. So since they're not doing that, Cooper Mays is my number two guy. I mean, I think Cooper.
Okay,
Are
then
there
I'm going to ask you.
Three centers in college football better than Cooper?
Okay, no, there's not one. I'm going to ask you this then. Yes, he has a bigger impact, but who's from an actual scoreboard standpoint, I guess is what I'm bouncing around at. Skill position players, who has the biggest impact? Now I'm including defensive backs as well. You can't pick linemen, or you can pick defensive linemen. You just can't pick offensive linemen.
Well, we've been talking about him already, Bru McCoy. Bru McCoy is the next impact player. I mean, if quarterback doesn't count a skill position, I mean, it is, but if you're talking about like guys with the ball, making plays with the ball in your hands on offense.
Okay, I'm going to make it really hard for you, but I got an answer. That's gold.
Okay. All right, I'm ready.
Heading into 2025, who is the breakout impact player on offense?
Heading into next year?
Mm-hmm.
Mike Matthews. That's easy.
Pretty good. That's not just Caleb's guessing either. That's from some people over there. So, yeah, you're exactly
Mike Matthews. Guys, I'm hearing Randy Moss comparisons. That's all I'm going to say about Mike Matthews.
Well, he's going to be really, really good. I believe that. Now, let's get into the Chandavian Bradley transferring and how big that is for the Vols in exactly 2 minutes with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker off the Hook Sports. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Let's bring some more people into this channel right now.
Big Bend 4x4, $29,743. A 2024 T250 low roof cargo van, $51,955. 24 model Ford F-150 4x4 crew cab, $46,929. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, who is it?
The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Chandavian Bradley, big loss for the Vols. Let's discuss who might fill his role soon and into the future now that the Vols have a scholarship available, as he has decided to transfer to a junior college. Not the smartest move in the world. Smart move would be to go to the Hemp House. You see it right there on your video platform. You can click on that QR code. By the way, when it comes to hemp products, you need to be sure that you're getting the safest and the best products that you can possibly find, and that's all about the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Go to hemphousechatwith2ts.com, hemphousechatwith2ts.com, or click on that QRL. Is it QRL code? I always want to say URL.
QR, just QR.
Yes, just QR.
There's URL, and then there's QR.
Yes, just a QR code.
Yeah, just a QR code.
Okay, Chandavian Bradley cruises out of Tennessee. He's going to go to a junior college. This was not one of the guys that Tennessee's recruiting fan base was most excited about. That would be reserved for like Nico, for instance. But he was on that second tier, I would argue, a 4-star prospect, and he's going to junior college, a very inauspicious departure for a guy that would have been better off to leave in January or then even after spring camp if he didn't think that he could get on the field. I'll give you a little insight as to why they didn't think he was a great fit. But first, Caleb, what's your impression of Bradley going to junior college in the middle of the summer?
So there are a lot of moving parts in play for this because Chandavian Bradley, we don't know exactly why he's transferred. He says it was not because of grades. He tweeted that out yesterday. It basically said there was just some other things he's got to work on. That's what he said. I don't know what that means. There could be family issues. We don't know.
I can tell you what that is in a second.
Okay. Tennessee fans, you're going to have to expect a lot of transfers among edge rushers over the next 2 years. And this would even be without the portal. They're loaded.
In and out?
Out. No, just out. Not in.
Okay, so you're not saying they're going to build their ends that way. Okay, gotcha.
No, they're going to lose a lot of edge rushers. It's kind of the same way where if you have a dynasty in football, you should expect to lose a lot of staff members.
Right? Well, now, wait, they're not going to have James Pearce after this year, right?
Dave, they're still insanely loaded. I don't know if you realize how loaded they are at edge rusher.
I think they're very good. I don't know that I'm worried about mass exodus of defensive ends leaving because of them.
Okay, there's only room for 2 edge rushers on the field in this system at a time. Okay, so after this year, you're talking after this year with James Pearce and probably Joshua Joseph starting on the other side is my guess. You have generational talent following it up with one, Emmanuel McCoy. If he he's raw, but Dave, we've all heard that he's freakishly athletic, isn't he? Himself, Emmanuel McCoy?
Yes. Heard of that a lot about those guys before. That kind of scares me a little bit, to be real honest with you.
Then there's Caleb Herring. And then there's David Hobbs. And that's just on the roster now, okay? The 2025 class has 5 edge rushers committed, headlined by 5-star Jordan Ross, probably the best edge rusher in the 2025 class. And Tennessee has now added 4 edge rushers committed for I'm sorry, 20 that was this class. Excuse me, guys, I spoke out of turn. The 2024 class, had 5 edge rushers that are already in the system, most notably blue chip Jordan Ross, who's a 5-star unanimously. The 2025 class already has 4 blue chip edge rushers, 2 of whom committed in June. My guess on the timing, if it's not anything personal, I think Chandavian Bradley, who didn't play last year, was already buried in the depth chart. If you're asking why didn't he transfer in December or the end of spring, he may have tried to give it another chance, knowing he wasn't going to play this year, but maybe he could work his way into the rotation in 2025. But with the 2 most recent edge rushers who committed in June, he probably had to say, that's it. I got to get out of here. This unit is just too loaded.
Why would he leave now? That's my that's my biggest question. You could leave at another time and have more opportunity if you left in January or you left in the spring transfer portal, which is not a popular transfer portal, but at least you'd have more options then. I have a theory. Something happened, and it could be as simple as he lost his girlfriend or his girlfriend left him. Something either happened, but my most likely theory, he didn't put on the weight he needed to put on. And if you can't come in with all the food that they give you and all the support that they give you and put on weight, which he needed to do, if that's your only goal in year number 1, how's your goal in year number 2 going to be, in year number 3 going to be taking on a Georgia offensive lineman that's going to be playing in the NFL in 6 months?
Well, so you think Tennessee nudged him into the portal? Or nudged him away?
I think they had every reason to if he didn't put on 15 pounds, which is my understanding that he is not. 15 to 20 pounds is what they wanted year 1.
Okay, so the only thing that makes me a little skeptical of that is...
Or let me say this real quick. Or not nudged him, but maybe he said, man, I've dropped the ball. I didn't put on 15, 20 pounds. They're getting ready to open up camp August 31st. I'm not big enough. I don't want to get the heck beat out of me for an entire football season. Now, sure, maybe I'll go put on that weight next off season, but let me just go to this junior college where it'll be air quote easier. And it's not. It's harder in junior college because not everything's handed to you. But the players won't be as good, so I won't get the heck beat out of me. And then, well, I'll just go back to a school like Tennessee after 6 months in junior college. I guess that's what he's thinking. It's not a good mindset.
He could come back. His mother tweeted out, Chandavian Bradley's mom tweeted yesterday that, quote, she said, Tennessee has been great and we will definitely miss Rocky Top. We support the coaches and all the players. We will keep in touch with all the wonderful friends and fans that have come our way. Once of all, always of all, I will continue to sport my UT gear. It's a weird thing to say when your son just transferred out, right? And Chandavian Bradley gave him a thing.
I mean, your kid's too young to do anything wrong. But I can tell you that as a parent, when your kid does something wrong, you can say to yourself, that's his bad. And doesn't that sound like a mom saying, that's our bad? Forgive my son. If he ever gets an opportunity to come back, please don't hate him. Doesn't that sound like that?
Which is that's good parenting, isn't it? That is great parenting.
Yeah, my kids are not always right. I will tell you, yes. I've told you in a heartbeat how many times my kids have been wrong since you've known me. So, yes, I mean, that is good parenting.
Which bodes well for Chandavian Bradley long term if he gets back in health or gets to the football shape you say, because I remember a distinct Tennessee running back in 2016 whose parents were all over social media and I think maybe sabotaged his NFL career. I'll just say that, including his mother going on Twitter trashing the other running back playing for Tennessee at the time.
I think that Parenting of a college athlete is incredibly difficult, especially when people are asking you your opinion. You've never been asked your opinion anymore to that extent, and you tend to share it, and you can share too much very easily. She never shares too much, but she shares the information at no cost to you. That's Medicare Misty. She can take care of your Medicare needs, whether it's for you or that loved one that is at the age where they need some real options. Medicare Misty.
19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
All right, so Tennessee, as far as a replacement for Chandavian Bradley, who is going to Hutchinson Community College, keep an eye on Brandon Caesar. He's not as highly rated, 28th best prospect in Ohio, but 6'4", 255 pounds, and Rodney Garner's all over him. So that's a name that I would look for. Could it fall in the next couple of days? Wouldn't completely stun me. He's considering Ohio State and West Virginia. It feels like one of those, Caleb, that's not a bad thing, but how bad does Ohio State want him? And then you know where Tennessee stands.
I think I think it feels like one of those, how am I ever going to get on the field if I go to Tennessee? I think I'm telling you guys, they're insanely deep at edge rusher. I don't want
that guy.
No, I get it, but I don't think Tennessee is going to. You talked about this. Peyton Manning didn't want to go to Florida partially because Danny Werfel was there, because he was going to be a freshman and Werfel was a sophomore. This guy,
I didn't know the Werfel Florida thing, but I knew that he did not want to go to any school that had a player a year ahead of him. Quarterback's different though. Any player that says I'm afraid to come there because I may not play, I don't want him. I literally. Even if it's Arch Manning, the top prospect in the nation last year, if he said that Quinn Ewers, this guy is good, I don't think I can play. I don't want to compete with him. Can you give me a promise that I'll get 50% of the snaps or something like that in practice? That would be enough for me to say, we're good. We're gonna go with Quinn and the next guy, whoever that is.
Well, yeah, that's what Tennessee's going to do. But the thing is, no edge rusher is going to commit right now because. Guys, after James Pearce, Jordan Ross is to James Pearce what George McIntyre is to Nico Iamaleava. Jordan Ross is going to be a generational edge rusher too. And
but
you're going to hear the same talk about wrapping him.
Right. And maybe where we differ is just how strongly I feel about it. Even if a guy says, how much can I expect to get on the field in year one? That's troublesome for me.
It's not about year one.
It shouldn't be. Yeah, I'm with you. It should be about how Rodney Garner can develop you. So if I've got a guy that is concerned like the Caesar guy about year one, then it's not it's not
year one. It's that he may never get on the field his whole college career at Tennessee. I don't think you're appreciating how loaded they are at edge rusher.
No, I agree. But if he has doubt in his heart, then he's definitely not going to do it. Right? Would you agree with that? That's like having one less leg than everybody else. I mean, if you don't believe it in your heart, it ain't going to happen. So I don't want that guy is the point I'm making.
I think because Tennessee has 5 edge rushers committed for 2024 and another 4 for 2025, again, 5 in this class alone. If you commit for 2025, Dave, you've seen Josh Heupel do it. He goes by seniority. You're not going to start until you're a senior because Josh Heupel is going to prefer his older players. He does that. He's not going to accept that he missed on guys. So I think that you're going to start. I think that
changes. I think that changes too. Can I go there for a second? I think that what you've seen Josh Heupel err on the side of veteran players because he's concerned about team chemistry. I think once the roster is loaded with talent, which it's getting that way, he doesn't have to worry about team chemistry winning him some games that he wouldn't otherwise win. I think he's just going to be, if you're not the most talented, you're not playing, period.
Okay.
Which is a philosophical change, but I think within the next year or two, he will make that change. Now, that being said, if it's 50-50, who are you going to play? You're going to play the more experienced guy. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah, Ty goes to. Oh, that's what the Lloyd Carr thought. Ty goes to the veteran.
And I don't hate that.
Do that.
You hate that?
No, I don't hate it either. Lloyd Carr, though, did cost himself a shot at a national title because he violated that rule one time, and that was with Drew Henson and Tom Brady. And Tom Brady and Drew Henson were. I actually think Tom Brady was better, but he didn't want to lose Drew Henson.
I've never heard that. What was the saying you used again?
What?
Ty goes to the veteran?
That was Lloyd Carr's philosophy at Michigan. Ty goes to the veteran.
I've never heard that. Don Self, State Farm, I've heard of him. Customer service still matters. And when you file that claim, you want to make sure that it gets paid and paid quickly. That's Don Self. For over 40 years, they have built their business on taking care of their customers in the greater Chattanooga area. 423-396-2126 or go to donself.net right below, donself.net right below. And everybody wants to save money, but when you make that claim, you want to make sure it's taken care of. So Caleb, scale of 1 to 10, how big of a loss is Chandavian Bradley?
1. And I say that as someone who actually thinks he can be very good somewhere else. I think Tennessee has become such a well-oiled machine at edge rusher. I don't think Alabama at their peak under Nick Saban was as deep at edge rusher as Tennessee is right now.
Wow. That's strong. All right. So you're telling me that you think James Pearce is better than Will Anderson?
Yes. Yes, I do. I do think he's better than Will Anderson. James Pearce, there's not a lineman in the country that could do to James Pearce what Darnell Wright did to Will Anderson.
I will say this about Will Anderson. I'm a big Will Anderson guy. And if you're out there, Alabama fan, weigh in. Will Anderson was done against Darnell Wright. He took the second half of that game off. He was good. You have taken my soul from me. I'm just going to manage to get through these 60 minutes of game time and have this damn game over with, is basically what he said.
Well, and there is a mentality thing with edge rushers that you have to wonder, because you're right, Dave. With edge rushers, you don't know when you're going to get the big play. And if you're taken out of the game early, you can maybe mentally shut down, right? As an edge rusher.
Yes.
And so James Pearce, we have to see if he can handle. It's like a receiver who doesn't get touches early in the game. They may take themselves out because they just feel like they're not being impactful. That's why Tom Brady was, and he was so good at making sure his weapons got touches early. So they felt they were part of the flow and the motion of the game. And that was one advantage he had over Peyton. Peyton was just like, I'm taking the best matchup, period. Sorry, no feelings here. And yeah, so I agree. And that's maybe the next step to James Pearce's career. I just don't think there's anybody that can take him out of the game. All you can do is run away from him.
Yep. Smoky Mountain Red said it was anxiety. Yeah, he caught it from Urban Meyer. That's what it was.
Had a heart condition on the sideline.
Yes. Urban Meyer didn't have a heart condition.
I'm sure. That's the fakest.
Hit like and subscribe right now if you want to make sure that we show up in your feed. We greatly appreciate that. And Crystal, you're right. Will Anderson did get posterized by Darnell Wright. That one game in and of itself to have on your resume probably made Darnell Wright $10 million over the course of his career, because you go in, you get a better pick because of that game and the way you went against the best defensive end in college football. So you make extra money on that first contract. You've elevated yourself because you make more money. I mean, if you really went back and factored it, it would be impossible to do, but that made him absolute millions of dollars. All right. So the Big 12 is targeting Florida State and Clemson. Can the SEC get into that battle? Also, we'll have the breakout Vol outside of Nico Maleava and Bru McCoy. I think we thought that Florida State and Clemson just naturally would be the next two teams to join the SEC, but it doesn't feel like that now, suddenly. Why, Caleb?
So Jeff Swaim has reported that the SEC is not that interested in Florida State and Clemson and has reportedly turned both of them down.
Jeff Swain is who?
Jeff Swain is a college football. He does scouting and recruiting services for TV and radio. He has his own YouTube channel on it. He's been doing it for a good 35 years since I was born, basically. He's been scouting.
So we're saying we trust him. Okay. I just haven't heard the name. I wasn't questioning.
And does it for OK Preps. Basically, he's been working with OK Preps. So, yes, that's. I'm sorry. Greg Swain. I shouldn't have said
okay.
Jeff.
So it's obvious
where
so it's obvious where he's getting the information from. He's getting the information from the Big 12 office.
Yes, but yes, from the Big 12 office.
So the question is, do we believe the Big 12 office narrative that the SEC did not want Florida State and Clemson?
Well, there's more to it.
Okay, keep going.
Because the Big Ten also is not interested in Florida State and Clemson, which is actually contrary to news the Big Ten leaked like 3 years ago that they would be interested in Florida State. But apparently, according to this report, they are sticking to their guns. No non-AAU school will join the Big Ten. And so...
Okay, so this report is basically everybody is disinterested in Florida State and Clemson.
Except
with the exception of the Big 12, where the story is coming from.
Yes, but it's even goes deeper. The Big 12 isn't just interested in Florida State and Clemson. But okay. I mean, I wouldn't say Big 12. I mean, Oklahoma is now also SEC country too. So I'm
not making fun of the geo. I'm poking fun a little bit at the narrative because I believe this is the Big 12 trying to float that out there. And
overall, the Big 12 is interested in taking 6 teams from the ACC, which I do believe that. I firmly believe that.
Okay, now if they take 6, that's even further proof that they are absolutely desperate for Clemson and Florida State, because you can't tell me they want 6. They're taking an extra couple to get Clemson and Florida State, right? Now the SEC's not going to do that. They're not going to take on an NC State and all those other teams to get Clemson and Florida State. I doubt the Big 12 would. The Big 10 would do that either. So maybe they do end up in the Big 12 when you look at it. That to me sounds like, though, wishful thinking by the Big 12, does it not? And we'll read a couple comments off the message board. We've been busy today, but doesn't it read like a narrative?
Yes, but it also reads as a possibility. And the reason it reads as a possibility is I've heard many reports that the SEC has questioned the level of value Florida State and Clemson bring. We just talked about Florida State downsizing Doak Campbell Stadium, Dave. They're not able to fill their stadium as it is. Now, you can bring up that they're playing in the ACC, so they have god-awful opponents every other week, so there's no interest. But do you think if Tennessee were in the ACC, that they would have trouble filling Neyland Stadium, even with god-awful opponents every other week?
Yes.
You do? You really think if they had an undefeated team like last year, you think they would still have trouble filling the stadium?
Whoa. You changed that. No. I thought I was thinking of them during the decade of dysfunction.
No, I'm talking about Tennessee. Florida State over the last couple of years has struggled on this. And this is where I met with it. I think there's questions about the value Florida State brings. There's question about the value Clemson brings. Not to say that they wouldn't be interested, but I don't think they're all in. I think it's more important for them to have a geographic presence in every single quote-unquote Southern or former Confederate state. So I've said this for a while. I think they're targeting North Carolina and Virginia before anybody else. I also think the Big Ten is targeting North Carolina and Virginia before anybody else.
I think North Carolina's the peach. I want to go to Crystal's comment, and it's brought to you. The message board today brought to you by our fantastic friends at Quality Tire Pros right there in downtown Chattanooga. The Eberle family has been serving Chattanooga since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brakes, alignments, oil changes, and more. All work is covered by nationwide warranty. Cherokee Boulevard or online qualitytirepros.com. Just tell Bo, hey, Off the Hook Sports said hello. Crystal says, don't want them. We should want North Carolina and Duke, Virginia, and Virginia Tech. I'm going to pair those up for a second. I've said North Carolina and Duke for a long time because I think you instantly become the football conference, the women's basketball conference, the baseball conference, and the men's basketball conference if you add Duke and North Carolina. So I've said that for a long time. So let me pair them up. What do you think of taking those two to start? And then I'll get to Virginia Tech.
I think I would just take if I'm only taking two, I would just take North Carolina. I don't care. There's 3 conferences, maybe 2. I don't care about being the premier conference anymore in terms of actual ability. All that matters is the revenue. And so what is this whole conference pride thing? Oh, we're the best of 2 conferences that exist. Conference pride is dead, guys. It's over. Stop living in the past. There is no such thing as SEC pride anymore.
Not when it comes to the Big Ten going out and getting Southern California and UCLA. That was stepping way out of turn and doing something goofy. So you should want, if you're in the SEC and you're in that office, you should want to bury the Big Ten.
Well, yes, you want to bury them financially, though. And too late. The Big Ten's burying you financially. So you're too late on that. Because the Big Ten is actually literally lapping the SEC financial-wise right now. And that's because of bad negotiations by Greg Sankey. But again, what I'm talking about is this whole, like, we have the best conference here. Best conference of what? Of 16, 18, 20 teams when you probably play less than half the teams in a regular season?
No, wait, Caleb. That you're so off base. Love you to death. But
are you a guy that's like, oh, the NFC is so much better than the AFC? NFC pride.
No,
no one does that. That's what the SEC and the Big Ten is now.
No, it's not, because the SEC and the Big Ten are still individual entities. Okay, the NFL, that is like a bank. That they have 32 locations, but that's one business. So the business models are different. So you want to beat the other people. In the NFL, you really don't care. You just want to make money. I mean, some people care more than others. So, Caleb, with this entire situation of taking in other teams, yes, it is about money, but it's also about being stronger as a conference. And tell me that the SEC wasn't stronger as a conference when they were beating the bejesus out of the ACC teams in the College World Series, and they were the story of the entire tournament. They'll be the story of the basketball tournament if they get Duke and North Carolina as well. That's an awful lot of publicity that you cannot buy and you could not afford.
Well, okay. There is money. You are right about money, because as we know, there's payouts for every NCAA tournament game that a conference of yours plays. We know that. So you do want that. I think a geographical footprint in Virginia outweighs having both North Carolina and Duke. So that's why I said I think they'd go for UNC and Virginia before they went for UNC and Duke.
I would too. I just wanted to split it up and make you kind of break down.
Yes, but in terms of entertainment, UNC and Duke would be epic. Could you imagine having Kentucky, UNC, and Duke play each other every year in basketball?
I'm in. Let's do 4 downs right now.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, so let's break down these teams. We hadn't planned on it. Cooper, what should people do if they want to be a part of the program, as we're live each and every weekday at 10 a.m.?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
All right, what down?
Coop here. First down.
First down. Do you believe that the SEC really doesn't want Florida State and Clemson?
I believe they're not fully committed to it. I'm not going to say they don't really want it, but I believe they are somewhat in a wait and see approach, and that they're not fully committed to them right now. I think they're more committed to North Carolina and Virginia. I'll just put that out there.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I 100% agree.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Derek said, Virginia, better recruiting bed than North Carolina. And this is an audible by me because I saw it and I thought it was a great question. I've covered recruiting in both of those states. I think the skill position players are better in Virginia. I think the passion, even though you think it's a basketball state, is a lot stronger in North Carolina for football. I see a lot more flameouts out of Virginia. So if you made me pick, it's hard, but I would probably pick North Carolina. But Virginia, I've always thought that Tennessee has underperformed there and could do better in that state.
I agree. I'm with you. It's hard. Tennessee's had some rare talent out of North Carolina. I mean, guys, the Carolinas is probably where Tennessee has hit with talent more than any other part of the country. You get kids.
Well, I agree. And if you throw the Carolinas in there, which includes South, it's no longer a conversation that Derek brought up. It's definitely the Carolinas.
The Carolinas delivered Tennessee a national title. I mean, that might have been the most important state outside of Tennessee, South Carolina.
I'll take the might statement out of it. That's a pure fact. TriStar hats for the latest in TriStar hats. Go to the original hats, apparels, and more. TriStarHatsCo.com. TriStarHatsCo.com. Use the promo code HOOK for that discount. The promo code HOOKed. All right, here we go.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Out of those 4 teams, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, and Duke, which SEC or which of those programs does the SEC least want?
Probably Virginia Tech. And 10 years ago, I would have said something totally different. But I'm a little bit tied into Virginia Tech, the football program. Funny enough, the local pub I like to go to in my neighborhood, Dave, the owner is from Virginia Tech, and he fills me in on everything. He's very tied to it. But I was tied to it before that, guys. But long story short, there has been incompetence after incompetence ever since Frank Beamer retired. And dating back to when Frank Beamer retired, everybody thought Bud Foster should have been promoted to head coach there, and people were very upset that he wasn't. And it split the university, and apathy has just totally. Virginia Tech is not the Virginia Tech that was dominating the ACC. That I think you probably thought in 2007 they had an SEC caliber program in the ACC, right? In 2007, in terms of the fan base and the support and the passion.
Fan base support and passion. Yes, I thought they were a slight half step below in overall talent, but when you add a Mike Vick, that changes everything.
Yeah. So they could have had the momentum to join maybe like in 2011, but now, no, they have completely collapsed as a program. They bring no value whatsoever. Duke brings more value than Virginia Tech now.
Okay, let's go 4th down.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
All right, 4th down is simply this, and that is which of those teams, I know your answer, other than North Carolina, does Tennessee want the most? You can't pick North Carolina.
Does Tennessee want? Tennessee doesn't want any of these teams.
I'm sorry, the SEC. The SEC.
The SEC, okay. Yeah, then it's Virginia after North Carolina. Now, North Carolina is number 1, not just because of their value, but Greg Sankey is a UNC grad. And I think Greg Sankey, just as a UNC guy, wants them in the SEC. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. But it's Virginia. And for the record, if it wasn't for Greg Sankey being a North Carolina guy, Dave, I would make the case they might want Virginia over North Carolina. Look at the revenue brought in. Virginia beats North Carolina. Virginia is the only school in overall revenue on par with Florida State and Clemson right now. I don't know how they do it. They bring in a ton of sports revenue. It's a
do we expect support. Do we expect these programs to get better pretty quickly, or are they just going to be programs like Vanderbilt with high academic standards that the SEC kicks around?
That's hard to predict. That's really hard to predict.
I mean, that to me is going the opposite direction, because my overall goal, Caleb, with the playoff and everything, is for every game to be significant. And you say, well, you're taking away significance from the regular season. I'm taking away a little bit. I am. I'm taking a little bit, but not enough, in my opinion, to offset what I get in the playoffs. So I'm trying to keep every game as significant as possible. So the last thing I want to see are 3 Vanderbilts on the schedule where Tennessee can just show up and win, because basically that's what college football has been for 100 years, right? With the UTEPs and the New Mexico States of the world and all those.
It's more likely Tennessee falls closer to the pack than Virginia Tech and than Virginia and North Carolina be a Vanderbilt on their schedule if those teams join the SEC. If Virginia joins the SEC, but because, okay, let's break this down. If Virginia and North Carolina join the SEC, that ices out a fertile recruiting ground for Tennessee in North Carolina. I mean, it does. Makes it much harder for them to recruit. That kiss getting James Pearce goodbye. No more getting Leonard Little. No more getting Sean Bryson. North Carolina is getting those guys. Virginia, if they come, think about this, Dave. One, there's underrated talent in the state of Virginia. But two, do you think they could compete with Penn State for the DMV talent at that point? I think they could. The DC area talent. I think Virginia all of us.
Yeah, they had started to do that some with Derek Dooley and had some success there.
No, I'm saying Virginia. Virginia themselves, the school.
Oh, Virginia.
I think Virginia, if they join the SEC, they would actually have a lock on DC talent and beat out Penn State for it.
It's a pretty good talented area. The only thing that scares me about the guys that are in that DMV area, as you call it, as it's called in that area, is my concern is you're always competing against everybody. Does that make sense? Like you go to Miami, and because Miami's not great as a football school and the stadium's 45 minutes from campus, it's not, you're competing with everybody. Everybody and their brother is down there recruiting. So the DMV felt like you were competing with everybody. Like I would ask one guy, I would say, who's your top 5? And he might go, Wisconsin, UCLA, Oregon, Washington State, and Texas. And the next guy I might ask of the same ilk of player, he might go Tennessee, Georgia, Maryland, Maine, Miami. I mean, you're competing against a lot of different people.
Yeah, that's a fair thing to bring up. For those who don't know the area well, it's very transient. Very few people who live in the DMV go more than one generation back in the DMV. They all come from somewhere else in the country. And it's not like
it's what's going to make you very right about Nashville. You say the talent's overrated. I don't think it's overrated, but I don't think it's going to be loyal to Tennessee. I don't think it's going to help the Vols long term.
No, it's not at all. That's another good point. This is the opposite of LSU. As you talk about Louisiana kids, particularly that Cajun area, they don't have family members that haven't lived in Louisiana. You know, you can go back to like the 17th century and they can talk about family members who lived there, right? In Louisiana. I mean, they don't leave that state. So it's a little bit different from there to, and I actually think to a lesser degree, Mississippi and Alabama and the Florida Panhandle have that, but it's not like Louisiana at all.
No Nico, no Bru. Who will be Tennessee's breakout impact skill position player this upcoming season? We talk a little bit of football. Tennessee offense up next. Hit that like and subscribe button for me, please. Greatly appreciate that. And want to be sure and thank our friends at Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia. Daily update, Sports Treasures TN. That's Sports Treasures TN on Facebook. You'll love them. Talking some offense, football right around the corner. Caleb will actually have this day in Tennessee football history, and I'll have exactly how many days it is until Tennessee plays football because Siri does that for me. 2 minutes off Thug Sports.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Experience it all at Ray Varner Ford in Clinton. Need a quick fix or maintenance? Visit our Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center. Keep your Ford running smoothly with the experts in our service department. Ready for your next Ford? Our sales team is here to guide you to this 24 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend 4x4, $29,743. A 2024 T250 low roof cargo van, $51,955. 24 model Ford F-150 4x4 crew cab, $46,929. Local you trust, experience you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
That's hot.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
He tries very hard. The Dave Hooker Show.
All I know is when we win a game, it's a team win. When we lose a game, it's a team loss.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable!
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
It's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, Banks & Jones. We love visiting with him, and he brings you this day in Tennessee sports history. Caleb Calhoun, what do we got? July 11th, 2024. By the way, it is 51 days until it is officially football time in Tennessee.
I actually want to send a shout out to somebody you probably covered, Dave. Anthony Herrera.
Yeah, I like Anthony.
Today marks the 16-year anniversary of when he became an American citizen. So for those who don't know, Anthony Herrera is from Trinidad. And he was an immigrant when he played for Tennessee. He attended school in Florida, and he played offensive line for Tennessee from, I guess it was 2000 to 2003, I think, something like that. 2000 to 2003. And then he became an NFL player, 8-year starter for the Vikings. And in the middle of his NFL career, he actually did become an American citizen in 2008.
I covered the guy, and I didn't know that.
Really?
I feel like the worst reporter ever. And those are the guys that you're looking for great. Maybe somebody else. We had times where there were two people that would cover feature story stuff. Maybe somebody else got to write that. But I didn't know it, so that means I didn't read it. Thanks for making me feel like the worst journalist in the history of journalism today.
And you have to cover 100 guys on a football team on a year-to-year basis. There are going to be backgrounds and stories of players you're going to miss to a certain
Trinidad,
degree. Huh? Trinidad, and I guess it's called Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh. So, Peyton Manning, where was he from? Peyton Manning? Yeah. Okay. I'm joking. I know. I didn't know. Maybe I did know that. Herrera was great, too. And now that I look back at it, he had a little bit of an accent. So I really should have been tipped off, but I was not. Okay. Feeling stupid. We move on. When we talk about breakout players this year for Tennessee's offense, it is not a wish or a want. It's mandatory, right? Because either Nico and or Bru McCoy have got to be there. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and place them above breakout stature. They're all but proven commodities to me based off what I've been told and what little I've seen them play. So give me somebody else. Who's the other breakout offensive player that the Vols have to have step up to have a successful 2024 season? We want your thoughts on the message board. We did this yesterday, had a great time with it. You want to go first or second, Caleb? And it'll be on, once we come up with 4 good finalists, it'll be on our YouTube page as well as a poll question.
I can go first.
Uh-oh, he's cocky. I can sense this. Yeah, go ahead.
Mine's a little unglamorous.
Okay.
Like, remember the Fergie song GLAM?
Barely.
Okay, sorry. OROUS. Okay.
Let's get hella back to topic.
Yes. Nice little Fergie shout out, 2006. I'm gonna say Lance Hurd.
That's Gwen Stefani that did the hella song. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm going to say Lance Hurd at left tackle. Lance Hurd has to break out for Tennessee at left tackle this year if Tennessee is going to do what they need to do. I believe in John Campbell at right tackle. I think they flipped him for a reason. I'm not saying he'll be darn all right, but I think he'll be serviceable. I have no reason to doubt Cooper Mays and Javonte Spraggins on the inside, provided they stay healthy. Left guard is a question, but I don't think anybody's going to break out there. The best you can hope for is that somebody is not a complete and total catastrophe there. So I'm going to say Lance Hurd at left tackle is going to be my guy who has to break out.
All right, let's take a look at our message board so far. We have a Dylan Sampson vote, and Tyler, you should definitely subscribe. Go ahead and do that. Dylan Sampson definitely deserves to be on that list. My question with Dylan Sampson, is he big enough to be an every down back? So is he going to have – I don't think he is. So to me, to be a true impact player, you've got to touch the ball 20 to 25 times a game. He seems more like a 12 to 15 times a game to me. But I'm going to put him on the list because I think he deserves to be there.
Dylan Sampson's a good one. If you would ask me like Squirrel White, I'd be like, hasn't he already broken out? Like if he emerged, would he really be a breakout player for Tennessee? I mean, I guess theoretically he would. But so is Dylan Sampson your pick?
Here's what I've got. Here's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Lance Hurd, Dylan Sampson, Squirrel White, or any other tailback.
So I'm going to push back. I think, I mean, because David Michael said my guy, if you're going to put a receiver, I think it's Dante Thornton.
It's Dante Thornton.
Squirrel White's going to be Squirrel White. Are there any questions about Squirrel White in the slot? We know what he can do. He needs help from the outside.
Well, that to me comes from Bru more likely than it comes from Dante.
But Dante has to take pressure off Bru.
Well, but that to me mid-season is more about Mike Matthews than it is about Dante. So I'm not saying it starts the season like that, but I'm saying by mid-season it might be like that. Listen,
here you were out here trying to criticize me for being critical of Dante Thornton earlier.
No, I wasn't. I think we so quickly said with Joe Milton, he played one good game, everything's going to be fine. And you see Dante Thornton make one play and he gets hurt on that play and everything's going to be fine. Let's be smart and take a step back for a second. Maybe that just is what he is, what we saw last year. So I still think Squirrel White has more upside than Dante Thornton. And I think you might look at me with a gas face when I say that.
No, I think Squirrel White could be amazing. I just don't know if I consider Squirrel White breaking out. Like, we've seen what he can do.
If you had a draft, if you're in the NFL and you had a draft a receiver right now, would it be Squirrel White or Dante Thornton?
Squirrel White. Because I can use Squirrel White in so many other ways. I can have him as a kick returner. I can use him on like gadget plays. You know who he could be like is who I felt the NFL never used properly. Remember Trendon Holiday for LSU?
I do. I remember him very well. A little stockier. Yeah, I could see that. Then the other guy that was probably even more stockier, Percy Harvin, was kind of that kind of player.
Yes,
exactly. Agrees with you. He says Squirrel White has already proven he's going to have an awesome year. I tend to think so too. So are we in agreement that we think the three receivers are Bru, Dante, Squirrel? Is it as simple as that?
Bru, Dante, and Squirrel. Bru and Squirrel. I'm actually with you that, and this is me contradicting myself, I'll admit it, but I'm with you that Mike Matthews could be so good he could take Dante's starting spot on the other side by the end of the year. And then next year, I think Mike Matthews in 2025 will be the go-to receiver for Tennessee. I think we're looking at a rarely talented player. And Derek Owen brings a good point. Derek says Chris Brazzell. I keep forgetting Chris Brazzell. Everybody touted him in the spring as a possession receiver. So maybe I'm wrong because...
Well, and I had somebody that told me that they thought that he was one of the more talented players on Tennessee's football team, that he was, and they used the term, and this person doesn't speak lightly, for real. So we probably leave him out of our conversation on a daily basis too much. So I hope that doesn't.
He's kind of is he going to be this year's Ramel? Is he this year's Ramel Keaton? Like kind of the unglamorous possession guy that You throw his way when he's open, and you know he'll make the catch.
No, he's last year's Dante Thornton. If Dante Thornton would have been what we thought that Dante Thornton was going to be.
Oh, so you think it's athleticism? I thought it was him as just a possession receiver.
I like it, but based off who I was talking to, I liked his athleticism. I mean, practice is closed so much you rarely get to see that sort of thing. But I like his athleticism. As far as an impact player that we didn't mention, it's whoever's playing left guard. And you cannot have A-gap problems. And Andre Keurig would supposedly be that guy, but there's some uncertainty there. I mean, Caleb, how troubling is that you pick up a transfer from Texas, a big school, and he's not ready to play right away, really. I mean, he kind of is. And I know you had the Cooper Mays injury, but now he's not completely ready to play. That, to me, is troubling, and it speaks to your assessment of Tennessee's evaluation of offensive linemen.
Yeah, that's been my knock on Heupel for the longest time. That's been Jimmy Hyam's knock on Heupel. My knock on Heupel goes beyond that. I've been critical of Heupel on just evaluating talent, period, full stop. Okay, he has not hit on people he's recruited. He's got a very bad batting average at this point. So
do you think he is too loyal to Glenn Ellerbe? The offensive line coach, those guys have been together forever. I'm sure Ellerbe has taken some average players like Darnell Wright and turned them into elite players. So you remember those things, but you might not remember that you haven't had a bunch of elite offensive linemen because that's not as fun to think about. But he hasn't over the course of his career.
But Glenn Ellerbe is such a good developer of talent that I think that's why he hasn't been too loyal. I think Josh Heupel, has tried. It's been harder to recruit offensive line to this point because of Tennessee's situation. So I think they're taking certain risks that they typically shouldn't take.
Z-Flex nailed it. Sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
Okay. So, yeah, I think they're taking risks that they maybe necessarily shouldn't take as opposed to just going for more refined guys. But Heupel's taking risk all over. I mean, the guy took a risk on Joe Milton. He fell in love with Joe Milton's arm and thought, oh, I can make this guy a superstar Hall of Fame quarterback in college. And to me, that is a real big question mark. And Travis says Darnell Wright was never average, but Darnell Wright was not recruited by Josh Heupel. The people Josh Heupel.
No, he's referring to what I said about turning from average to elite. When I say average, I meant when the guy showed up at 6'5", 300 pounds as a true freshman. Every freshman is average. I didn't mean to besmirch his reputation at all. He has never been an average football player on the same plane of the rest of the players he's playing against. But when he showed up, he was a young whippersnapper, and they turned him into a first-round pick. That was my only point.
Yeah, so Glenn Ellerbe develops the talent. They've got to figure out how they can get
It was to Travis's point, though, he was a 5-star prospect.
He was a 5-star. Yeah. I mean, out of West Virginia. So I don't know if he's too loyal to Glenn Ellerbe. I do agree it's a red flag, but again, this is just Josh Heupel's talent evaluation in general to me. Also, maybe I'm being unfair. I mean, again, this is Josh Heupel's 4th year on the job. He's lived with the transfer portal. There hasn't been a lot of chances for guys he recruited to get onto the field just yet. So, maybe I'm being a little unfair.
Very true. He is the one, the only Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports. We're a day away from SEC Media Days in Big D. For Caleb.